Before we take a nosedive in my sanity, I must first march deep into the mystical woods. To prepare for this trek, I finally get to introduce the swellest lad in the Dark Souls franchise, Andre of Astora. Just from the look of him, you don't want to test him, even if his price for a key item is ridiculous. Blacksmiths have been around from the very beginning of the Age of Fire, a testament to the fact that this world has never seen peace. An integral part of what makes blacksmithing so strange and otherworldly can be found just a few feet away from Andre. This is the Titanite demon, and killing him drops the demon Titanite. Titanite is the upgrading material of Dark Souls and is sourced back to these demons and the crystal lizards. Your weapons are literally strengthened by the act of killing. I don't think this is deep or anything, but it is something I noticed. Darkroot Garden is a simple level for the most part, but it still has a few interesting intricacies that make it worth talking about. The level design isn't as layered compared to other levels I have talked about like the Berg or the Depths, but the forest makes up for it by being heavily carried by its art design. If you're observant enough, you can actually see the area boss, and you can see this item just out of reach, and it really just gets you going.
Gives me conniptions.
The night sky really stands out because one second you are outside the parish in broad daylight, and then the next second you are being watched by the moon. It's watching you. It's watching you. Maybe this hints at how the flame affects time, or that maybe its influence over the land is symbolized by sunlight, and somehow Darkroot has been shrouded in the dark. This level also has some of my favorite ambient soundscapes in the whole series. The ambience really reminds me of going out for walks at night and getting to ponder. And then some dog starts yapping from its yard because it hates you, I guess. I think most players will find this secret bonfire, if not by looking around this corner, then by simply reading all the player messages telling you about it. Dark Souls basically lets players spoil each other through the message system, but it somehow is not weird because of how integral social interaction is to the experience. Now I get to share my favorite bit of audio. The illusory wall sound effect is both mysterious and comforting to me. Illusory walls are such an oddity to me because there's no clear explanation to their existence. Usually games just use cracks in the walls, but here we have some fake walls. They're just non-walls. Is it because of distortions in time, or is it a work of magic? I don't even think the developers know the answer. They probably just thought it was funny. From this bonfire, we take this path down, and there's this little detour we can take, and it gets us to see just how mischievous the folks of this area are. But before I go any further, I wanted to show a little less obvious way to get around Darkroot by using a fall control spell to fall into the woods unharmed. Another strange enemy, the Frog Ray, is down here and is quite the pushover. And here's this strange tree thing. The enemies in this area are all pretty easy in my opinion, but they make up for that by being really strange and mischievous creatures. This isolated lake is another pretty chill spot. If you ever find yourself having a really bad time in life, come to this spot and farm some green blossoms off the frogs. Or maybe go to therapy, I don't know, I'm not your parent. Exiting the lake by going up here, we fight these pretty intimidating looking stone guardians, but they aren't that bad. The fact that they ragdoll is very funny to me because they have such a serious design, so it's really, really jarring to see them just bounce around. It just looks ridiculous. The wolf ring that was teased to us a little earlier is a pretty great item, especially if you don't have many articles of clothing. So I might use it for a while, and with that we are back where we started. Put me in a loop and I will call it the pinnacle of human ingenuity. Now if we go back the normal route, we can fight a few more stone guardians and enter this tower. For some reason the developers hid this NPC summon. Not that you would really need it since the boss coming up is extremely easy. But I will summon her anyway because she's got great fashion and I don't mind speeding up this boss fight. Even though this boss fight is easy, the Moonlight Butterfly is still an incredibly memorable fight, and has a lot to offer. The design is fantastic, and it has this great score to go along with it. It's a bit somber, and maybe some of the lore helps explain that. The butterfly was created by Seath the Scaleless, an envious dragon in search of immortality. His pursuits led him to create new life, but they don't have much of a purpose outside of being an experiment. The moonlight butterfly is graceful, but doesn't fit in with the natural world. Born as an outlier and never meant to amount to anything. I always kind of feel bad for killing it. It's an optional fight, but for purposes of this commentary, I did want to fight it. Climbing this tower, we find yet another lonely soul, a dead blacksmith that almost looks like he has been turned to stone. We get another great view, and after taking it in, it's time to use this key the blacksmith dropped. If we backtrack into the woods, we can enter this basin. I'm gonna ignore this disgusting piece of filth that is the Hydra for now, and instead go and see what... awaits us in the tower. This is the Havel soldier, not to be confused with the legendary lore character of Havel, because there's no way he got trapped by a wooden door. You cannot convince me of that. He's a very intimidating fighter on the first playthrough, but honestly, after hundreds of hours of time... Okay, I'll admit it, I'm not the best at timing his attacks, but it's pretty easy to get him stuck in a loop. Put me in a loop and I will call it the pinnacle of human ingenuity. Have you ever heard of ritual humiliation? Maybe I'm the one trapped. I would insert a Sun Tzu quote here, but I don't think I have the credibility to give his quotes any value here. With him dead, I get this ring that gives you a stronger back and more lore. Finally, I can be free of these shackles. And I'm back in the slums where I belong. I'm home! I'm finally home!